increasing number of people beginning to pick up my refrain, when is this going to end? This is not sustainable. This uncertainty cannot go on. What is the future? Where are we looking? When are we looking at reopening? And David Asman just said that he wants to hear from Dr. Fauci when we're going to be able to. Dr. Fauci, folks, if it's left up to Dr. Fauci, we're not going to reopen until a year from September. We're not going to open until we get a vaccine. If it's left up to Dr. Fauci, we didn't elect Dr. Fauci. Everybody has a lot of admiration for Dr. Fauci. He's 79 years old. He's been in the National Institutes for Health. He was instrumental in overcoming the medical blockade that was killing so many people from AIDS and HIV. He's done great work. Don't misunderstand, but we didn't elect Dr. Fauci, and Dr. Fauci's not the guy that ought to be the one determining when we reopen the economy. And we are going to have to do this. The jobs report is in. The U.S. economy lost a total of 701,000 jobs in March. And I hate to tell you, the drive-by media is crowing about it. You watch them report it, and you almost get the impression they're happy about it. And it just burns me. I'm going to have to go a long way to exercising some discipline and self-control today, because there's just a lot of stuff that is beginning to really trouble me. For example, these briefings. The briefings are great. They have been great. But you know what? There's a sense of permanence setting in on these briefings. And it is obvious that the people in these briefings love the process of the briefings. And we're not hearing anything about the end of any of this in the briefings. The briefings continue to be focused on the apocalyptic nature of the virus. Apocalyptic nature of the virus. Governor Cuomo's briefing just concluded. His was wide-ranging, but it also was a focus on the apocalyptic nature. So you want some facts? Here's some facts. We've now surpassed 6,000 deaths. The ballpark number right now, because it's a moving number, 6,550 deaths, 700,000 jobs lost. That's, as of now, about 100 jobs lost for every death nationwide from the virus. Now, most of the deaths, not all, most of the deaths are of elderly people, people have underlying health issues, or a combination of both. I don't know how many of the deaths are people, say, working at grocery stores or gas station attendants, liquor store clerks, people working for essential businesses. I don't know what the death rate is among people working at essential businesses, but it doesn't seem to be reported to be very high. So 6,550 deaths, 700,000 jobs lost. Here's NBC News and the way they've reported it. And literally, folks, they are crowing about this because it's bad for Trump. In their minds, anything bad for Trump is good. Now, by the way, these unemployment numbers are not as bad as most of them were hoping. They were hoping for worse. In fact, unemployment only went up to 4.4%. You realize how much worse off we'd be if there had not been the 3 years of a roaring economy from 2017 to the present. That cushion. I'm not kidding. There were media people reporting / hoping that the unemployment rate would reach 15% to 20%. But despite that, despite the percentage number, the economy lost 700,000 jobs. And NBC is saying that this number only represents the tip of the iceberg. And they added that the worst is yet to come. And I swear I think they were excited. As journalists get excited by bad news, by doom and gloom, the worst is yet to come. Let me read to you from the NBC article. Economists and market participants are in agreement that the April jobs report will better illustrate the havoc wreaked by the coronavirus on the workforce. Some economists are predicting the unemployment number could be as high as 20 million. Okay, when I came back to this program on Monday, one of the things that I immediately zeroed in on was the models and how I was made nervous by them. The models that were projecting 2.2 million dead if we didn't do anything. Then they projected between 100,000 and 200,000. And then they upped it to 240,000. We've never met the modelers. We've heard their names in some cases, but the modelers have never shown up at a briefing to explain their work. On Wednesday, after the dire death models were touted at the White House briefing, I again commented that all we keep getting is this modeling data, and wouldn't it be great if the people doing the modeling actually showed up to explain it? Well, guess what? I have two stories today. The Washington Post has a story where the modelers now think these numbers are too high. The modelers have gone to the Washington Post to say that they don't think these numbers are accurate, meaning the 240,000. We know the 2.2 million number is not accurate because that was if we hadn't done anything, no social distancing, no mitigation. But they're saying now that the 200 to 240,000 death number is not accurate. The very modelers who gave us these, oh, you don't believe me. Well, let me share with you a couple of headlines here. Experts, Trump advisors doubt White House's 240,000 coronavirus deaths estimate. White House. See how this is working? Experts, Trump advisors doubt. So they put out this number, 200,000, 240,000 deaths earlier in the week. Now they come along and say the Trump White House is wrong. Well, the Trump White House relied, along with Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci, on the models, which I had a bad feeling about from the get-go. I could play you the audio sound bites of me for Monday and Tuesday if you want. A second story, Trump officials privately question White House coronavirus death toll estimate. The Washington Post and the Hill.com. Two stories. And I'll tell you what I think this is. I think the media may be trying to set the table to deny Trump credit for lower fatalities. Look, everybody knows how bureaucrats work. You give us a worst-case scenario, 2.2 million, but it ain't going to be that. They say 100,000, maybe 240,000. Then the deaths come in at, say, 60 to 80. They say, oh, my goodness, we were so wonderful. Look at it. We lowered the death toll with our social distancing or whatever, but in the same time here, I think they're trying to deny Trump credit for the lower failures, and all bureaucrats are going to try to claim here. The credit, the computer models predicted, the media, the worse it is, the better for the news, for ratings and what have you. And the worse it is, they think the worse it is for Trump. I mean, they're out there wanting a Category 6 hurricane with this stuff. Good for business, bad for Trump. So when the projections of 100,000 to 240,000 deaths were announced, CNN, Jim Acosta, Trump gets it. Trump looks scared. Media was happy. We had a catastrophe. But now the very people that gave us these numbers through the models are now suggesting that maybe they're not right. Maybe the death toll isn't going to be that high. I told you on Monday, when this is all over, we're going to have a big debate in this country whether this shutdown was ever even necessary. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out debate. And remember, the doomsayers, because of psychology, are never wrong. I also want to share with you, before we get too deep into things. By the way, a far-left media group now, Free Press, is actually asking the FCC to censor Trump's briefings every day. More on that. I got an email from a guy that I met, lives in Chicago. I met him years and years and years ago. When I met him, his family was very Chicago liberal. He was sort of apolitical, but he followed along with the family. Knew who I was. We became friends. I got two emails from him last night. Normally, I would keep this to myself, but this really profoundly affected me. And it reminded me why I do what I do. Rush, comma, you are the only person nationally who is really questioning what is going on. So many of us are going to be financially ruined from this. And no one on a national level is focusing on that. Rush, please, even if the mainstream media takes snippets of what you say out of context, sensationalize it to make you seem like a creep, screw them, keep it up, keep going, keep talking. Your take on all of this calms me down. In over 16 years, I haven't wanted to throw it all away more than I do right now. But it's helping me knowing that somebody actually cares. And I really appreciate that you do not have a death countdown on your website. You ought to have a live ticker of all the people who have recovered from the virus and survived it. All these media companies are salivating over reporting the devastation of our lives that we have worked endless hours and made immeasurable sacrifices to build. This is the greatest country in the world. You are the only person who seems to be fighting for our way of life. I'm going to continue to write these emails to you because it's therapeutic for me, and if my emails are annoying, feel free to say, chill out, and I'll go away. On the positive side, I've become one hell of a teacher for my kids. I've loved being able to be around them lately. Stay healthy, keep fighting. So I replied. I thanked him. And he sent back another email. This was the follow-up. Rush, it's insane. I could go on for hours. It's driving me crazy. If I end up having to sell my house in a horrible market, or if I can't pay my taxes because of this, I'm going to have to tell my kids it was because Americans were shamed into becoming Europeans. During the Blitzkrieg on London, Londoners were less fearful and shameful than we are now, and they were being bombed. Actual bombs could drop from the sky, kill them at any moment. People like Don Lemon have this permanent "I told you so" smirk on their faces. They don't offer anything substantive or positive. That's why what you're doing is important to the average person like me. For crying out loud, Rush, you have lung cancer. You, of all people, can hide. You have every right to hide or go away, cash it in, but instead you're actually trying to promote the American way of life. It drives me crazy, especially because I live where I live. How do all these people think America was built? By being complacent and scared and fearful? It's crazy. Sorry for rambling. I'm just really worried and angry. And I totally understand it. I literally mentioned this yesterday, and I've experienced every economic circumstance you can in this country except for pure abject poverty and uber billionaire, multimillionaire kind of wealth. I have had nothing. I've been broke. I have been fired a whole bunch of times and so forth. I know what this feels like. I know the abject fear, and it frustrates me to no end. It's unsustainable, and I am worried for everybody in this circumstance. I know we've got these bailout and AIDS packages, but the money's not going to get to people as fast as they're trying to get it to people, and there's some really great work being done in that area. Mnuchin opened the briefing yesterday. It was great with how they're going to try to maintain viability for small businesses, keep payrolls open even when the businesses are closed. It's a tremendous objective, and it's a great effort, and it's going to require a lot of logistical coordination, and I really hope they pull it off. But it still is a really scary thing, and I've been through it when the economy was roaring. I've been through it in the 1980s when I was the only one not doing well, or one of few not doing well. I've experienced it all. I can relate to it. I know how frightening it is. I know how it attacks your self-esteem. I know how it makes you feel worthless. I've been through all of it, and I despise it. I hate it, and when it's not necessary, it frustrates me even more. As I say, there are a couple people now writing, hey, one in New York, Governor Cuomo, can you start talking about when this is going to end instead of just the daily apocalypse? Can somebody give us some hope? Can somebody give us exactly the theme that I had on the program yesterday? This is starting to effervesce and bubble up out there. It's going to have to happen. The debate is not lives versus money. Debate is lives versus lives. I have to take a break. You hang in there. Be tough. We'll be back, and we will continue. Details on the latest updates on the modelers now thinking their own numbers are wrong. White House's 240,000 coronavirus deaths estimate. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but look what we've now based everything on. So they put out this number from their models, starts at 2.2 million, and that was never going to be an active number because that was based on if we did nothing. That number should never be mentioned. But it will continue to be mentioned as the high mark because it'll be able to then be used. See how great a job we did? It wasn't 2.2 million. It was whatever the death toll ends up being. Then they scared us with 100,000 to 200,000. Then 240,000. Leading disease forecasters whose research the White House used to conclude that 100,000 to 240,000 people will die nationwide from the coronavirus were mystified when they saw the administration's projection. Why? The administration simply relying on this modeling data. So why were the modelers, why were the disease forecasters mystified when they saw the administration use the number? The experts said they don't challenge the number's validity, but they don't know how the White House arrived at them. Do you see what's happening here, folks? They give the administration these numbers from the models, the administration uses them, and now the modelers come back and say, what's the White House doing? We don't think these numbers are... Now a full segment ahead of me. Let me spend some time in this Washington Post story, or one of two today. Washington Post and thehill.com. Experts, Trump advisors doubt White House's 240,000 coronavirus deaths estimate. The 240,000 number is from the models. Donald Trump didn't make it up out of whole cloth. Neither did anybody in the administration make up 240,000. They were given that number from the modelers. And now we got some of the modelers and some of the health professionals. Well, the Chinese were not honest with us about how contagious the disease was. They didn't tell us it could be spread from person to person. What, are we this helpless that we can't do anything without knowing what the Chinese tell us about this? I'm going to be using a big amount of discipline here, folks, as I go through this. Because there is a big part of me and a growing part of me that says much of what we're doing, not all, but much of what we're doing is, I don't want to say not necessary, but the damage that we are purposely inflicting on the people of this country is ripping me apart. It is the people who make this country work, and we have turned off their livelihoods, and we have told them they cannot do what they want to do when it comes to their careers and to their work. Work is how people define their self-worth in many cases. Work is how people measure themselves. We've turned the switch on a $22 trillion economy. And now we get a headline, Trump's advisors doubt White House 240,000 coronavirus death estimate. leading disease forecasters whose research the White House used to conclude that 100,000 to 240,000 people will die nationwide from coronavirus were mystified when they saw the administration's projections. How the hell could they be mystified? They gave the White House the numbers, so the White House used them. How could they be mystified? The experts said they don't challenge the numbers' validity, but they said they don't know how the White House arrived at. What? The experts who supply the information are telling the Washington Post they don't know how the White House got the numbers? Why is this not the screaming headline all over the news today, along with the success that chloroquine is having out there? More on that as the program unfolds. White House officials have refused to explain how they generated the figure, 240,000 deaths. That is a death toll bigger than the U.S. suffered in the Vietnam War or in the 9/11 terror attacks. White House officials have not provided the underlying data so that others can assess its reliability, and they've not provided long-term strategies to lower the death count. Am I watching the same briefings that the drive-by media is reporting on here? It seems to me that it's Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx that are using these numbers, and they've got their charts and their graphs, and they're showing the steep climb on the upside of the hill and the downside of the hill, and then the what do they call it? Leveling off or whatever it is. Some of President Trump's top advisors have expressed doubts about the estimate. According to 3 White House officials, spoke on a condition of anonymity because they were not author. So this story is basically attempting to blame Trump for using inflated numbers. And you know what they're going to say? They're going to say Trump got everybody all hepped up when he knew it wasn't going to be this bad, so he can make himself look good when the number comes in much lower. Well, hell's bells, that's what every bureaucrat in the world does, and that's what they've been setting themselves up for here. It wasn't, I remember when Trump first came out and used the 2.2 million number, he was stunned, he was shocked. He didn't make it up. He was given that number by his health experts as the number of deaths if we didn't do anything. No social distancing, no shutting down the economy, keeping restaurants open, all that sort of stuff. That's how many people would have died. Well, we're not doing nothing. We're doing all kinds of stuff. 2.2 million number is irrelevant now. So it ought to not even ever be used again, but there it is. At a task force meeting this week, according to 2 officials with direct knowledge of it, Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, told others that there are too many variables at play in the pandemic to make the models reliable. What? We have spent the whole week being told what the models say. We got to rely on them. And now Fauci is out there. Well, there's so much input going in there. There's so much output coming out of there. There are too many variables at play to make the models reliable. So all these numbers are worthless. Now, what does this mean? Dr. Fauci said, I've looked at all the models. I spent a lot of time on the models. They don't tell you anything. You can't rely upon models. What? Relying on models is all we've done. Relying on models is why. The director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said the vice president's office have similarly voiced doubts about the projection's accuracy. Well, they were using the numbers yesterday. What is this? They were using these numbers, 240,000, 200,000. They were using these numbers yesterday. Here's this story saying everybody doubts them? I have to be missing something here. I have to be, I have to have somehow lost consciousness for 5 or 6 hours yesterday, I have to be missing something because none of this making any sense. Jeffrey Shaman, Columbia University epidemiologist, whose models were cited by the White House, said his own work on the pandemic doesn't go far enough into the future to make predictions akin to the White House fatality the White House fatality this is the Fauci-Birx fatality forecast. Trump is using numbers he's been given. Trump is not the health expert here. He's not the scientist. He's not running the models. He's not looking at the output from the models and running out there to the briefing room and telling us what they are. He's being given the data. Correct? So now all these modelers are running away from their work. Jeffrey Shaman, Columbia University epidemiologist. Well, my own work may not go far enough. So we don't have a sense of what's going on in the here and now. We don't know what people will do in the future. We don't know if the virus is seasonal. What? Fauci does. Fauci's telling us it's seasonal. Fauci says there's going to be a seasonal rebound. But this guy's saying his models don't know that. Well, make your models know it. Put the data in. That's how models work. Models are not magic. You know, models are just a lazy man's effort of not having to think on your own. Get this. This is this next paragraph. The estimate appeared to be a rushed affair. We're talking here about this estimate of 100,000 deaths to 240,000. People are making tracks now to disavow these numbers in the Washington Post, the Bezos Post. So here's another paragraph. The estimate appeared to be a rushed affair, said Mark Lipsitch, an epidemiologist and the director of Harvard's Center for Communicable Disease Dynamics. He said, yeah, they contacted us, I think, on a Tuesday a week ago. They asked for answers and feedback by Thursday. They basically gave us 24 hours. My initial response was, we can't do it that fast. But we ended up providing them some numbers responding to very specific scenarios. Other experts noted that the White House didn't even explain the time period the death estimate supposedly captures, just the coming few months. That's a valid point. 100,000 dead, 240,000 dead. When? By when? They keep telling us that the peak is in the next 2 weeks in some states, the next 3 weeks in some states, the next 4 weeks in other states. When is this total of 240,000 supposed to be reached? Well, I'll damn well guarantee you that most people watching the news think in 2 weeks. They think we're going to go from 6,500 deaths right now to 240,000 deaths because this is what they're being told. And this is what they're being told to keep them at home. And this is what they're being told to make them go along with shutting down the economy. They think 240,000 people are going to be dead in 2 weeks. Now these people are running away from this. Almost the entirety of what the public knows about the death projection was presented on a single slide at a briefing Tuesday from the White House Coronavirus Task Force. A White House representative said the task force has not publicly released the models from which it drew out of respect for the confidentiality of the modelers. Bingo! Bring them up on that stage. Let us meet them and let their work be shown and questioned. Instead, Fauci and Birx represent the work. Trump goes out there, takes the lead because he's the president. That's what he does. He trusts the stuff that he's being told. White House representatives said the task force has not released the models themselves because of respect for the confidentiality of the modelers. And get this, many of the modelers approached the White House unsolicited and simply want to continue their work without publicity. Whoa, without publicity? You mean to tell me that a bunch of random computer modelers have been trying to get hold of the White House to infuse their work into the task force and don't want to be known? What are you nodding your head? What does that mean to you, Mr. Snerdley? They don't want to be known. That goes so against human nature. Something like this, everybody wants to be part of it. Something like this, everybody wants to be on that stage. Something like this, everybody wants to be seen to be part of the solution. If somebody comes along and wants to input work into this but doesn't want to be known, you ought to be very suspicious of the work. This is not normal to want to remain anonymous when you think you are presenting solutions. A representative for Dr. Fauci did not respond to a request for comment. A spokeswoman for Vice President Mike Pence declined to comment. On a Thursday call with conservative leaders, Pence said it was difficult to view the models, but that the president thought it was important to share with the American people. That's just one story. There's another one from, and this story goes on. There's another story, thehill.com. Trump officials privately question White House coronavirus. See, this story is probably more along the lines of action. This story is about how the White House is questioning the data they've been given. But even so, the data has been used to keep you home, to shut down a $22 trillion economy with no end in sight. Listen to science. Politico celebrating how the brilliant people got this idiot Trump to finally listen to the science. And yet we've got a story today saying that these people have nothing to do with the numbers, that Trump used the numbers, that the White House is using the numbers, and nobody knows how the White House arrived at the numbers. It was Birx and Fauci that gave Trump these numbers and these invisible modelers. And yet we've got a Politico headline, how Fauci and Birx got Trump to listen to science. All right, we're going to get started on the phones, promised, and we're going to commit to that. Here's Herb, Evanston, Wyoming. Great to have you on the program out there, Herb. Hello.
Thank you, Russ. An honor to speak with you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'll see you next week. I know personally what you're going through. My point is this. I'm a small business owner, and I was tickled pink to see a small 2-page application on this disaster loan process. It only took me a few minutes to fill it out and turn it in, and then I get back a list of over 15 items of documentation that I've got to get for a small $20,000 loan. It's going to.
Now wait a minute. Is this the plan that Mnuchin announced yesterday?
Yes, sir. I just got it yesterday and submitted it to the bank, and today they sent me a whole list of things that I've got to gather up. It's going to take me days or weeks to get through this.
Well, that Mnuchin made a point of saying that deposits are going to start today and next week. There was nothing about any of that. I'm not denying you. Don't misunderstand. I thought Mnuchin was the high point of the briefing yesterday, which was the opening part of the briefing, where they announced that they're going to keep small businesses open by sending enough money to 500 employees or fewer, where you can keep your employees on the payroll for when the eventual reopen happens. Just reopen, go back to work. Everybody's been paid all this time. That's the objective of the plan here.
I thought exactly the same thing when I saw the 2-page application. But now I'm getting requests for over 15 items. Payroll expense verification, 940s, 941s with corresponding bank statements. I've got to verify that all my employees live in the United States, get copies of driver's licenses, a detailed list with corresponding salaries, a trailing 12-month profit and loss statement, and more.
So I guess you're going to comply. You got no choice, right? You're just a little disappointed.
Well said, my friend.
Yeah. Don't you get frustrated? I've had this happen so much to me, well, throughout my life, but lately. You're told A, B, C, and D, and A, B, and C are not true. And and you plan on A, B, and C, and you get ready for it. You get stoked up. And then you find out, yeah, we forgot something. I know how frustrating it's got to be, but you got to do it. You got to do it. They're making the money available, low-interest loans. They want you to keep your employees paid so that you can get right back in business once the medical people supply chain, pharmacists, people that run grocery stores and keep them stocked. And it's a thankless gig at this point. Now, earlier in the week, we had a bunch of people call. They were expressing the challenge of being at home with their kids and can't go outside or can't go outside very often. And I offered some suggestions. It's a great opportunity to teach discipline. Lord knows not enough of us have enough. It's a great opportunity to teach discipline. It's a great opportunity to teach your kids about this country. You have 24/7 access to your kids. You have an opportunity here to wrest control of whatever poison they were being taught. You know, the Constitution of this country is woefully untaught. The founding of the country is woefully untaught. The story of the real Thanksgiving is not properly taught. Even the Great Depression, how we came out of it, is not properly taught. People are not taught that the Great Depression lasted 10 years longer than necessary because FDR used it to do exactly what Gavin Newsom is talking about, advance a progressive liberal agenda to empower the Democrat Party for 50 years by creating nothing but as many dependents as he could out of the American population. There's a golden opportunity for those of you homeschooling. You're now learning about it, how to do it. It's frightening. It's daunting, getting a new appreciation for teaching. So here's what we have done. Many of you have become home teachers now because your kids are home from school full time. And who knows how long that's going to be the case. And what kind of summer recess is there going to be? What kind of summer vacation is there going to be? So I mentioned earlier that we were working on a page at rushrevere.com and rushlimbaugh.com to make available an opportunity to get free versions of the Rush Revere series. And Catherine and I would love to help with your at-home teaching efforts by offering free adventures of Rush Revere series books to you while our supplies last. We always hold back supplies for things like this. Now, it's been a long time since I've talked about the Adventures of Rush Revere series. So let me give you a little recap. And again, for those of you who know the story, have been here a while, I beg your indulgence because every day people listening into this program for the first time. Some years ago, we realized that there was a real void of accurate, truthful, patriotic, engaging American history being taught to young people. So we set out on a mission to write American history adventures that made American history fun for young people, not just a fact-based recitation of statistics and dates. We devised a system to actually take the reader back into that aspect of American history we were focusing on, have them learn it by actually being there. Instead of just memorizing boring facts for a test, we wanted young readers to really experience history up close and to understand the most incredible story, the founding of the United States of America. One of the most incredible stories in all of mankind, the founding of the United States, and by teaching it by actually being at the events that shaped the country. So how do we do it? We created the vehicle of time travel. We created the magic of time travel via an incredibly funny, snarky, smart aleck horse named Liberty. We created a substitute teacher named Rush Revere, who owned the horse Liberty, although Liberty didn't feel owned. Rush Revere was a substitute teacher at a middle school. Now, Liberty could only time travel to events in American history. Liberty could not do anything of it. Liberty could not go to the future. Liberty could only go to things in the past. It was a lightning strike that did something to Liberty that made Liberty able to time travel. And so various students from the Rush Revere Middle School would be let in on the secret, and they would time travel back to various incidents in American history, and each one of these was one of the books in the series. In the first book, Rush Revere and the Brave Pilgrims, Rush Revere and Liberty and the crew of young readers land on the deck of the Mayflower. They learn about the exciting voyage to the New World. They learn what it was really about, how difficult it really was, where it really came from, why it happened in the first place. Liberty is, of course, cracking jokes about the poop deck. You know what the poop deck was, Snurdly? Do you even know what the poop deck is? Well, Liberty found out about it and thought it was very funny. Young readers get to meet and talk to George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Abigail Adams. Women, the women of our founding, are prominently featured in the Rush Revere series. We've donated lots of copies to various schools, homeschoolers, and we've heard from teachers and readers all over the world sharing their stories about which adventures they like the most. Parents, more often than not, write in to say how thrilled they are to see their kids reading and enjoying American history for the first time. Because, folks, these books, because of the invention of time travel with Liberty and the kids being able to ride Liberty's back into time, they're actually there in these events. And we don't make anything up, and we don't lie about anything. We don't create anything to advance an agenda. We just want kids to learn the absolute truth as they can understand it in this age group about the founding of America. 5 books in the series. Every one of them, #1 New York Times bestsellers. They have been approved by accelerated readers. They have received countless 5-star reviews. In fact, I even won, you won't believe this, I even won a Children's Author of the Year award a short time back and nearly shut down the event in New York when I actually showed up to accept it. Now, the books are geared for 8 to 12-year-olds, but we've heard from people much younger and much older who love the books as well. It's amazing. There are adults who've read these books who have told us, we didn't know that about some event in the founding of America, which doesn't surprise us at all. The founding of this country is something that for the longest time has not been properly taught. There's been a war going on in this country for the longest time to reshape it, to cast the founding as a racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobic event, that America is unjust and immoral by its virtual existence, veritable existence, that America has no moral authority because of our original sin of slavery and our denial of women the right to vote. So America has no moral authority in the world. We're in a constant battle, and people have not been, from their youngest ages, taught the truth, and that's what we sought to correct. So here's the deal. While you're all hunkered down at home and wondering how to keep your kids engaged, let me encourage you to read or reread the Adventures of Rush Revere series. Now, these are free. We're offering free versions. In order to submit a request for free books, just go to rushrevere.com and look for the free books icon on the home page. There's a simple little form to fill out, 15 things. You got to get some bank information, you got to get the total number of your employees and how many. I'm kidding. There's very little to do here. Go to rushrevere.com, look for the free books icon on the home page. There's a simple form to fill out that'll go straight to Team Revere. Remember, it's while supplies last, so be sure to get your entries in as soon as you can. While you're at rushrevere.com, be sure to check out all the other free resources that are there and available to you, like Education Depot, where you can see how other teachers and classrooms have used these books. It's an entire world that has been created with the Rush Revere series. You can see how they've been used all over America in various schools to teach the truth of American history. You have a golden opportunity here because you have 24/7 access to your kids. They have challenges to win special prizes. They're free downloads. I'm telling you, the pictures and the videos that we received from kids dressed up as Paul Revere, Liberty, other patriots, unbelievably heartwarming. This became its own little subset of the program, and it's right there, all there at rushrevere.com with the free books icon. While supplies last, we're sending them. No. This is we're not selling them. This is not a sales pitch at all. Although the publisher is thinking that we ought to reissue some in paperback, but we haven't decided. What this was a labor of love. For Catherine and me, we're thrilled to be able to share these adventures with you. It was so much fun to write these books. And by the way, I did the audio version of every one of these things. And it was just so much fun. It was such a delight to take a stab at the opportunity to teach 8 to 12-year-olds the truth about the founding of America. We want everybody to love this country. We want everybody to understand how special and blessed it is, not because we're better people, That's not what American exceptionalism is. American exceptionalism is not that we are better people, that our DNA is special, that we're brighter, smart. That's not what American exceptionalism is. You know what American exceptionalism is? You know what the history of the human condition in the world is, folks? I don't know how many of you ever stopped to really think about it. The history of the human condition is misery. The vast majority, from the beginning of time, whenever that is, whenever that was, the vast majority of human beings have lived lives of poverty. They have not lived lives of plenty. They have not lived lives of what we consider creature comforts. Most people never knew about electricity. Most people never knew about airplanes. Most people never knew about automobiles. Most people never knew about the combustible engine. Most people knew nothing but manual labor. Most people knew nothing but tyranny as their form of government. Most people had nothing. Most people had very little because they were not free. They were born free. The natural yearning of the human spirit as created by God is free. But there are people on this earth who want to deny that freedom and control that freedom. The United States is exceptional because it is the first nation in the history of mankind which constructed itself around the premise that the citizen runs the show, that the citizen is intrinsically free, inalienable rights that government cannot deny because they come from God. They are part of our creation. The Constitution of this country limits what government can do. The first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, limit what government can do, not limit what the people can do. The first 10 amendments spell out what the people are free to do that the government cannot stop. That had never happened in human history. That's the exception. And that's why everybody wants to come to America, because of the freedom, the unleashed freedom that then unleashes opportunity and potential. First time in human history. The Brits got close with the Magna Carta. Magna Carta was one of the foundational building blocks, but never has there been anywhere in the world anything like the United States of America. It's blessed. It is special. Your kids need to know it if they haven't been taught the truth of it. And it's why what's happening now is ripping my heart out. Shutting down a $22 trillion economy. With stories today that the 240,000 death figure, why? We don't know where that came from. Why the White House using those numbers. What? The modelers gave us the number. The health people gave us the number. Take a break. We'll come back and continue. RushRevered.com. Make sure you look for...
To have you back.
Thank you very much. Great to be back, too.
So I don't want Snerdley mad at me. I will get right to the point.
What would it matter if Snerdley got mad at you? You're never going to run into Snerdley. You're probably never going to get through again. So what would it matter if Snerdley got mad at you?
Yeah, I just like to keep everyone happy, right?
Well, okay. But you ought to worry whether I get mad at you, not Snerdley.
True. So I was calling about the coronavirus commission that Nancy Pelosi is talking about putting together. And I read it earlier today on Fox. Rush, I was more annoyed reading that than I think I was at Russia collusion, impeachment, and all the other partisan garbage that she's tried to do. Now, even though this hasn't hurt Trump, it's frustrating that it hasn't completely backfired on them. I mean, this stuff should just tear them down.
Boy, is that ever true. Oh, man, is that ever right? The fact it hasn't yet cost them anything.
Yeah,
let me tell you why she's really doing this, by the way. I mean, clearly they would love nothing more than to be able to impeach Trump and throw that out. But the reason they're really doing the immediate reason is so that they can have a briefing every day to combat Trump. That's what they're setting up.
So do you think this could be the thing, though, Rush? Do you think this could be the one thing at the end of the day that just completely turns the American people off, costs their speakership, costs them seats? I mean, there's got to be a point.
I have to tell you something. I don't know why the American people haven't ditched them yet.
Yeah.
They haven't been right about anything. They've been lying to people about Trump, Russia collusion, Ukraine, Avenatti, Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, whatever they have dreamed up, and the FBI lying with the FISA applications. It's now being reported that was even worse than what, well, we all knew it, but it's now finally being reported how bad it was. Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Smirk. I don't know how anybody has any faith in him anyway. Adam Schiff is obviously one of those dishonest slubs that's been running around running shows on this. And it's look, I've been doing the program 31 years, and I have been frustrated that people haven't seen the truth about Democrats even in that time. So that's why I just got to keep hammering them. But this illustrates the power of the mainstream media. They're propping them up, man. They're propping them up, and they continue to beat up on Trump. And look at the way they're eagerly reporting the loss of 700,000 jobs, for crying out loud. And look how that plays into the Democrat agenda. Imagine being in a political party benefiting from all this. That this is what has to happen for your party to benefit? I wouldn't want to be in a party like that.
No, and I just somehow they just seem to get away with it over and over. I mean, yeah, it's good that it hasn't hurt him, but there's really no consequence.
But it has hurt him. It has hurt. It's slowed down the agenda. It's distracted him. The presidential approval number is a key number. They've kept that number in the low to mid 40s. If Trump's approval number would have been in the mid 50s, like Clinton's was or like Obama's was, Katie barred the door. Trump has been able to overcome. Don't misunderstand, but they have delayed. They have slowed down a number of things that Trump wanted to do, including the reforming of Obamacare, the wiping it out and rebuilding it, the healthcare system and so forth, and many other things like that. Look, Bill Barr's guy, Durham, this investigation is going on out there, but everything's suspended now because of this, because of the coronavirus. But I remain convinced that investigation was going to... Virginia Beach, Virginia. Great to have you, Genevieve. Hello.
Hi, Mr. Limbaugh. I first wanted to tell you what an honor it is to be able to speak to you today, and that my family and I are praying for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I thank you. And you know what? I'm praying for you, too. I prayed for 30 minutes in bed last night for this to end because of what it's doing to everybody.
Thank you, sir. And I'm a Rush grandbaby, and I wanted to tell you how much I love listening to your show and reading your books. And the other week, I was sitting in my room thinking about how you've inspired me, and I realized that you reminded me of the prophet John the Baptist, who was sent before Jesus to prepare the world for his coming. And he inspired and educated the people for their own benefit, not for his own glorification. And because of this, the Pharisees, who I equated to today's leftists and elites, hated him for this. But he persevered through the hardships, just as you do today. And I thank you for that.
Genevieve, that's a mouthful for a 15-year-old. You're claiming that I taught you how to critically think. When do you have? Don't misunderstand, but when have you had a chance to listen to the program? You're in school. Are you homeschooled by chance?
Yes, I am.
Aha! I knew it. It had to be the answer. Well, aren't you sweet? That special compliment, because it's one of the many things that I actually hope happens as a result of people listening to a program like this, is they end up thinking for themselves rather than just accepting, and so many people are sheep, Genevieve. The experts, wherever they are, say something, and you believe it. And the conventional wisdom forms, and that's groupthink, and everybody just goes along with it. And if you question it, it takes guts to question conventional wisdom. It takes guts not to be a conformist. I could have never made it if I were a conformist. I'm not a conformist. It's why I couldn't make it in corporate America. But you're ahead of the game. That's very, very flattering of you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You've certainly helped me with different debates and reports, and that in itself, thank you for that. In 8th grade, we had...
And I'm sure your parents have had a lot to do with this too. Now you can't give me all the credit, because I would take it. So you have to make sure you give your parents some of the credit too.
Well, they introduced me to you, and
well,
in 8th
see,
grade,
there you go.
I had a speech made on, and I chose to do climate change for my debate, and all your facts definitely helped because I couldn't have
Man,
got that from Google.
that is even better. That I helped you to see clear through the fog of deceit that is climate change, man-made climate change.
Oh, that was my whole prompt.
Well, this call gets even better.
And it went pretty well. And it definitely helped. I could have gone on and on with the report, but unfortunately, we only had a page, so couldn't go too much.
Well, how are you whiling away the time now? Are you, in fact, at home with your parents?
Yep.
How are you keeping busy?
Well, I do help my parents homeschool the others, my siblings, and just helping around the house, cleaning up, and
now you get bored. I'm sure you're 15. You've got energy. You could run rings around your parents energy-wise. How are you personally dealing with any boredom? Because your answer here could help people. Because I guarantee there are a lot of people going stir crazy inside trying to figure out, how to keep themselves engaged, busy. You can only read so many hours a day. You can only watch television so many hours a day. You can only talk to so many people. So how do you do it? How do you deal with? Or maybe I should ask: have you gotten bored yet?
Well, I have 3 younger siblings, so that definitely helps with the boredom. But so far, we've planted a garden, and I've taken the chance to learn new things, such as crocheting, or I'm definitely reading a lot, as my mom fondly calls me a bookaholic.
You just said something. I think you said something that's a key for me, anyway. I strive every day to learn something. I strive every day to learn something I didn't know. I try to learn something new about something I do know. I don't think there is anything that can keep a person more engaged than learning. Learning never stops. It's impossible for any human being to know everything that humanity knows now. Do you know when that was? When was the last time in world history when it was possible to know everything that was known? William F. Buckley Jr. tackled this in, of all places, a Playboy article, which was entitled Redefining Smart. And I can't remember it. I'll have to look up the articles. I've kept it. But he calculated when it was that the most educated human being on earth was capable of knowing everything that was known, all of the knowledge that had been charted. That's impossible today. It's impossible for any one person to know everything that's known because what is known now is massive. But that means there is a heck of a lot to learn. I try to learn something new, for example, my iPhone every day, and then use it. I try to learn something new about my iPad every day. I try to learn something about news items, stories that I'm interested in, be they political or scientific or what. Just learning something every day and then being able to explain it to somebody else is one of the things I've always thought would keep my mind young. Not my body, but my mind young, keep me engaged. And that's what you're doing. And if you can't help it at your age, at 15, you're going to be learning simply by getting out of bed every day and absorbing what happens to you. And that'll go a long way to keep you from getting bored.
I agree.
And you can learn anywhere. You can even learn from watching Tiger King. It may be insufferably painful. Yes, you can. You can learn what not to do. You can learn things not to say. Learning opportunities are virtually everywhere out there. At any rate, Genevieve, great to have you in the audience. I'm so glad you called. Thank you so much. Next is Cheryl in Olathe, Colorado. It's great to have you. You're next. Hello.
Hi, Rush. It's so good to talk to you and so good to hear you back on the radio. We love you. We trust that you are staying safe because between you and Trump, You two have made America great again.
Thank you very much. We're doing everything we can here, doing everything we can. Although I want to warn you, I got to be here Monday. I got to go back and restart the treatments, which means the odds are that I'm going to start feeling like crap again pretty soon next week. Hope not, never know, but the odds are. So make the most of this day.
We just hope it works for you this time. But
well, the last time worked. This is the great irony is the last time worked. It was really wrecking the tumor, and it was also wrecking me. So we had to suspend it.
Well, I hope you find something that for the
we will
rid of it and working for you too. Okay, so what I called about, this has been bothering me for maybe a month. Before Biden said that he was going to have a woman running mate, I'm thinking if he ends up being the nominee, he's going to have Clinton, Crooked Hillary, run as his running mate. And if he's...
Now, wait a minute. That's not... He had a name. Who did he mention that was going to be Israel? Was it some governor or something? Snerdley, you've been paying attention to this? The governor of Michigan is the one he touted. If he tried to name Hillary Clinton, Obama would come out of hiding wherever he is and put the kibosh on it. That's not going to happen. No.
I hope not. But, whoever he elects, what's going to happen? I think he's getting dementia, and he's going to be, if he was somehow elected, God forbid he is, I don't think he has a chance, then he's going to be determined incompetent to run, and whoever is his running mate is going to be the president. And that's why my fear has been Hillary.
All right. Well, look, I think it's going to be worse than that. I think that they would keep Plugs as the front man for as long as he can stand up. I think the powers behind Plugs would rather remain invisible, exercising the power, pulling the levers, rather than out there facing it each and every day. So as long as Plugs could serve as the figurehead, with the real powers that be. In that way, we wouldn't know who they are. We wouldn't know who's actually running the Biden administration. But look, knock on Formica here. This is April the 3rd. Nobody predicted the coronavirus. Anybody want to go back to the polls in January and tell me how meaningful they were? Says it's ridiculous to start predicting things. It's fun, and that's about all it's worth. But sitting here right now, there is no way that Joe Biden can possibly be elected. He couldn't withstand 5 minutes on a debate stage with Donald Trump. Then there's the old saw, the American people want to change horses in midstream during a crisis like this. And, folks, if we're not back up and running economically by September, then you can't factor anything today with any kind of certitude. If we're not up and running, which reminds me, I got to get to the second story about this. Let me do that when we come back from the break. Thanks, Cheryl, very much for the call. We'll be back. Conservative group in the Republican caucus, the House of Representatives. Representative Andy Biggs, get America back to work. Amen. Let me give a couple of pull quotes. We are crippling our economy. We are witnessing the destruction of the life savings of entrepreneurs and investors who have created small and medium-sized businesses. At least 10 million workers have lost their jobs over the past 2 weeks. Friday's jobs report showed the unemployment rate worsened by almost a full percentage point in March. It's only going to grow. It's only going to get worse. 25% of small business say they're close to closing, so millions more workers expected to be unemployed in the weeks and months ahead. Currently, state and local governments are attempting to determine what businesses are essential. In the process, they are wiping out the soul of the American economy. Congressman Biggs says it's time for a new approach, one that values and protects all life. Folks, this is not a debate about life versus money, lives versus money. This is lives versus lives. The debate we are having in this, don't let anybody tell you this is about money versus lives. It's not. It's about lives versus lives. We're telling your work is essential, yours isn't. Yours is essential, yours isn't. Yours is essential, yours isn't. You get to go to work, you get to get paid, you don't. That's lives versus lives, and that is not good. We must give hope to the public. Set forth a plan to reopen the economy. Exactly. Get rid of this uncertainty. There needs to be a light at the end of the tunnel. A plan to reopen the economy needs to be announced. Remove the oppressive government restrictions. Right now, the cure is proving worse than the disease. Thank you, Congressman Biggs. I know I'm not alone in this. Don't misunderstand. Even John Podhoretz, a never-Trumper extraordinaire, writing today about Andrew Cuomo. The headline, please, Andrew Cuomo, give us some reason to hope during this isolation. By which I mean we better be flattening that curve. So far, Governor Cuomo, we New Yorkers are cooperative and uncomplaining because we understand that we're part of an effort to keep our health system from collapsing under the weight of excessive numbers of COVID-19 sufferers, which matters to us far more, by the way, than the fear that we might catch it. But here's the problem, and it's something our newly and nationally celebrated governor and others need to be aware of. They have to give us reason to believe that this period has been of value. They need to give us reason to believe that this is going to end. And that's not coming through during Cuomo's daily news conferences. What's coming through is love of process. People are falling in love with the permanence of this. People are people are starting to accept the permanence of this. Ought not be permanent in anybody's mind. Everybody involved in this ought to have as their primary objective ending this and putting this country back to work. Why isn't that at the forefront? We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can have the same concern for the health aspects. We can have that and still have the same concern for the economy and putting people back to work. Thank you, Congressman Biggs. Trump officials privately question White House coronavirus death toll estimate. I think the media may be setting the table to try to deny Donald Trump credit for lower fatalities than the models are predicting. That's what I think this is all about. The media has been hyping huge death tolls. Remember during the first Gulf War, all these body bags the U.S. military was going to need because the U.S. military had no way to beat Saddam Hussein. We don't know desert warfare. We're going to die. Body bags, hundreds of thousands. Sam Donaldson excited. The media today all excited about 100,000 body bags being ordered. Media excited about huge death tolls. Projections, 100,000, 240,000 deaths were announced. Trump looks scared. Now the story is Trump officials privately question the death toll estimate. Well, the death toll this morning, Dr. Fauci was on Fox, and he finally got a little cross-examination. Dr. Fauci is not supportive of chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, in combination with azithromycin. He's not a big fan. Hydroxychloroquine is a proven malaria fighter, and it's been around and approved to the FDA for decades. But it hasn't been approved for this. Fast-tracking it, people are prescribing it, various places, surveys of doctors, very hopeful. It seems to be working. We're not hearing much about it. Dr. Fauci was asked about it, and he pretty much poo-pooed it on the basis that we don't have time to test it. There hasn't been enough blind testing. There hasn't been enough clinical testing, the usual rigorous stuff. Now, at the moment, 75% of the doctors in Spain are prescribing chloroquine. Dr. Fauci remains steadfast in his bureaucracy. Dr. Fauci is a conformist. He's a scientist, obviously. Can I... You know, it's really tough to say some things here, but I'm sorry, folks. That's what I do. The National Institutes for Health and the Centers for Disease Control, we're told they're among the best of the best. And why are they there? The Centers for Disease Control, NIH, are supposed to know about all of the evil viruses and microbes and all that stuff all over the world. And they're supposed to be studying it. They're supposed to be aware of it. They're supposed to be devising ways to protect America from these vicious diseases. And they got caught up short. And now they're out there. Well, the Chinese didn't tell us the truth. And my goodness, the Chinese didn't tell us the truth about how contagious it was, and that's... My question is, how can these people remain unassailable saviors when they are part of a bureaucracy that was obviously unprepared for this? They were as stunned and shocked as any of us were, and yet they automatically, because of their positions, assume positions at the top of the authority ladder. But they were caught. They didn't have the slightest idea about coronavirus, and when it first hit, they seemed content to think it would stay in China, and they seemed content to believe that it wasn't contagious, that it couldn't be spread person to person because the Chinese didn't tell them the truth about it. The Chinese lie by definition. Communism is built on deception. Never forget the initial estimates they showed us predicted 2.2 million deaths in the United States by August. I know I'm going to catch hell, but, I'm telling people are telling me, don't worry what the media says about you. Don't worry about the media taking you out of context. You've got to keep speaking out for the people here. I fully intend to. I just... not being a conformist comes naturally to me. Not following conventional wisdom comes naturally to me. And questioning common sense that doesn't seem common to me comes naturally to me, too. And we're investing expertise in a bunch of people who got caught short here. And now, after having got caught short, they have become experts. And now we're being told that they are in charge of when and if our economy will be reopened. Now, to me, here is the difference between a health professional bureaucrat expert and Donald Trump. I believe anybody can identify risk. I don't think it takes any special training. I don't think you have to be a lawyer or a doctor. I don't think you need to have 12 years of residency or whatever it is to recognize risk. You know what the rare quality is? The rare quality is quantifying risk. That's the talent. That's the skill. That's the expertise. Anybody can tell you that something's bad out there, and anybody can tell you to go hide from it. Anybody can tell you to hunker down. Anybody can tell you to stay home. You don't need experts for this. But you do need experts to put it all in perspective. You need experts. You need somebody with some kind of guts and knowledge and instinct combined with experience guided by intelligence to be able to quantify risk. For example, either this pandemic is serious enough to destroy the U.S. economy, or it isn't. You think Fredo Cuomo's taking the drug? You think Fredo's taking chloroquine? Well, how do we know that? How do we know that he's taking... How do we know that he's taking anything he thinks will work? How do we know that? Because you think anybody would. Okay, so you believe that Fredo's taking that drug. Let's say Fredo's taking hydroxychloroquine. Let's say he's taking it. And a lot of people would want to take it if they got sick. A lot of people being required to go to the hospital and beg for it. Chloroquine is a 70-year medicine whose side effects are known. They are quantified. We don't need months and months of clinical trial on chloroquine. We've already done it. But not for this disease, Rush. The FDA is mired in protocols. The health experts are mired in, well, this is the way we've always done it. They're mired in their bureaucratic techniques, and they don't like anybody horning in on the game, even when there is ample anecdotal evidence that a particular drug might be helpful. So, as usual, what we have is Donald Trump up against a bureaucracy. It doesn't matter who's in it. He's up against a bureaucracy. And I hope that it is Trump who makes the call as to when this economy gets reopened. Meanwhile, the days are passing by. Now, let me go to the hydroxychloroquine stack here. Here's a story from the New York Post. And we had this... we did have this yesterday. Two stories had this yesterday, so I want to repeat them. The headline, hydroxychloroquine rated most effective coronavirus treatment, poll of doctors finds. An international poll. Thousands of doctors rated the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine the best treatment for the novel coronavirus. 6,227 doctors surveyed, 30 countries. 37% rated hydroxychloroquine the most effective therapy for combating the coronavirus, according to results released yesterday. The survey was conducted by Sermo. It's a global healthcare polling company. Found that 23% of medical professionals had prescribed the drug in the U.S., far less than in other countries. Survey found that outside America, hydroxychloroquine was equally used for diagnosed patients with mild to severe symptoms, whereas in the U.S., it was most commonly used for high-risk diagnosed patients. The medicine most widely used in Spain, 72% of physicians said they had prescribed it. Now, a debate about hydroxychloroquine was sparked a couple weeks ago after Trump touted the drug as a possible game changer in the fight against COVID-19. Now, the World Health Organization is at the back pocket of China. The World Health Organization is as bad as the United Nations. The guy that runs the World Health Organization is out pimping for China because China put him in the position. This guy that runs the World Health Organization has been praising China for being truthful and honest and having the best policies to deal with the coronavirus. The Chinese haven't told anybody the truth about it. We got Dr. Birx out there saying they didn't tell us the truth about how contagious it is. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization saying the Chi-Coms are showing the way. They're leading the way. This guy's bogus. This guy has no credibility. The World Health Organization ought not even have a legitimate voice in this debate because the guy running it is in the back pocket of the Chinese government. And this guy is out saying that there is no evidence that any medicine can prevent or cure the disease. Well, there's a lot of doctors out there who say that it's helping. The CEO of the medical polling unit here, Sermo, called the polling results a treasure trove of global insight for policymakers. Here is another story, this from Fox News. Headline, after mocking Trump for promoting hydroxychloroquine, journalists acknowledge it might treat coronavirus. After repeatedly mocking President Trump for suggesting March 19th that hydroxychloroquine could be an effective treatment for the coronavirus, media organizations have begun acknowledging that the drug, now approved for emergency use by the FDA, may be useful after all. Journalists and top Democrats. Really, journalists and top Democrats. Wonder why that association exists. Journalists and top Democrats have beaten a similar hasty retreat from their previous claims that Trump's ban on travel from China was both xenophobic and ineffective. They're now having to change their tune because Trump was not xenophobic. The early ban was effective. The ABC News has run a story on the numbers of people from China that came to this country potentially carrying this virus, as in the 700,000 number, starting in December. 700,000. ABC News. Trump bans travel in January. They called him a xenophobe. They called him a racist. Now they're backtracking on that. Media outlets' misinformation on hydroxychloroquine was unique because it involved not simply policy disagreements, but also suggestive medical advice and directives that could have dissuaded some from seeking certain treatments. The New York Times reported this week, malaria drug helps virus patients improve in small study. They added that a group of moderately ill people were given hydroxychloroquine, which appeared to ease their symptoms quickly, but more research is needed. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat, went from threatening doctors who prescribed the drug with administrative action to requesting that the federal government ship her state some. Can I ask something? What about hospital discharges versus admissions? Are more people in New York, more people are being released from the hospital having had coronavirus than are being admitted now? You're not hearing about that, but I just saw the story. USA Today editorial board similarly aggressive, mocking, writing that coronavirus treatment Dr. Donald Trump peddles snake oil and false hope. There's no approved therapies of drugs for COVID-19, but the president's out there promoting some. Now everybody's agreeing that it works, except for Dr. Fauci. Another story. Hydroxychloroquine, most effective coronavirus treatment poll. This is about the doctors. Another poll of 6,000 doctors. And then we have the story, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center that we had yesterday, that they think they're on the way to finding a vaccine sooner than a year from September. We must take a brief time out. We'll come back. Your fair.
Rush, Megamondo Dittos from the lockdown communist state of Michigan.
The lockdown communist state of Michigan. Welcome, sir. Great to have you. You're making me laugh. I like that.
Oh, we have to laugh. The governor came out yesterday talking about a 70-day extension on this, and small businesses here are withering on the vine.
They are. Does it bother you that certain businesses are being said to be essential and others are not? So they can go to work and they can pay, but you can't.
I view that as a minor issue in the bigger picture, personally, but I really feel the media has to take a financial burden in this panic and hysteria that they've created.
Well, they are taking a financial burden. You know, media is asking for bailouts. The media, no, seriously. I mean, they're having advertisers are dropping out. I mean, it's. Let me tell you something. In the media world out there, it is bad right now. Particularly in print media, but in some places in in broadcast media is bad out there. The New York Times is even talking about needing a bailout. If you want them to suffer economically, they are. But remember, most of them are owned by conglomerates, and they can actually treat them as lost leaders. ABC's part of Disney, NBC's part of Comcast, so... but that you want them to suffer financially because you think that they are contributing to the decline here?
I think they have totally created the panic, the hysteria. I think they've perpetuated this economic meltdown. I fault them expressly in this.
Well, it is. I believe that something about the media hasn't changed. They want Donald Trump harmed. They want Donald Trump somehow out of office. Even if it could be made to happen before the election, they'd do it. They'd take it. If it takes until the election, fine. And there's no question that that's flavoring and coloring the way they're reporting the news. I mean, they were giddy. Some of these networks were giddy today, reporting 700,000 jobs lost. Some were disappointed it wasn't more. But the media is a constant, Steve. The media, especially since, I don't know how far you want to go back, but let's just go back to 2016 in the campaign. The media has been consistently filled with undisguised hatred for Donald Trump. And they have thrown every concept of journalism out the window to get him. So there's nothing new about how the media is reacting here. The media is behaving to type. They are hyping bad news. You realize the hurricane forecast came out earlier this week, and they're all excited. 4 major hurricanes may hit the country during this. They're so excited they can barely hold their breath together over the damage that might finally do to Donald Trump. They don't care about the damage it might do to him. A few weeks ago, Apple said that they were going to start opening stores at the beginning of April. That's out the window. But you know what Apple is saying? Apple's saying they're going to start opening their stores in May now. Now that's their target. Okay, I appreciate that. Apple is trying. Apple is trying to erase the uncertainty. They're trying to look down the road and see when they might actually be able to open stores. They've opened all of their stores in China. You know, Apple's up and running full speed in China. The supply chain in China is up and running. Their production supply chain for new iPhones up and running. They just don't know what kind of demand there's going to be here for a new iPhone. They may delay the new iPhone because there may not be any money when people have to buy one. But they're up and running in China. And now they're talking about maybe opening some stores in America in May because the current lockdown, of course, in most places till the end of April. Well, with all of this uncertainty in the news and everybody staying at home, you want to feel safe at home becomes much more important. It could account for why so many more people are using this time to properly protect their homes. You know, a lot of people doing things that they've been putting off because they haven't had time or inclination. One of those things is a home security system, and Simply Safe, you'd be surprised. They are as busy as ever shipping home security systems to people like you who are taking more time to make sure finally that their homes are protected. Simply Safe's systems do not require an installation crew. Nobody has to come to your house to put it in. And don't let that put you off. This is made possible by the elimination of wires. You go to simplysafeusa.com, see what they have, the various sensors, doors and windows, motion detectors, HD cameras, glass break sensors. You figure out what you want and where you want to put them. And if you can stick them off and then stick something up on a door or window, you can install a sensor. Then you get a base station. All these sensors connect to the base station via Wi-Fi. So if a violation of any window, door, motion detector, the base station goes crazy, wailing away with a siren and so forth. And they call the cops if you have the 24/7 monitoring. But there's no site survey necessary, no wires. Nobody has to come to your house. Nobody knows where your sensors are. And because it's wireless, every sensor and motion detector, every other component connects with Wi-Fi. And then the base station connects via cellular to the local police and fire department. Your system arrives pre-tested, pre-configured. Your job is to unpack the box and stick the sensors on the windows and doors where you chose them to go and then activate them. It's easy. Take you less than an hour. 24/7 monitoring, only $14.99 a month. And there's no long-term contract. It's a month-to-month thing. Cancel it anytime you want. You can see the system online, simplysafeusa.com. You get a free HD camera right now when you buy your system. Website, again, is simplysafeusa.com. Wausau, Wisconsin. Carson, you're next. I'm glad you waited. Great to have you with us today. Hello, sir. Carson, testing, 1, 2, 3. Carson, Wausau, Wisconsin. Are you there? He's not. He was 12 years old. School is closed. Misses his friend. Well, too bad. Todd, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Are you there?
Hello, young man.
Hey, how are you?
Good. My prayers are with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you know, I know it. And I very, very much appreciate it.
I just want to tell you, in more than 30 years of listening to you, the most important thing that you taught me. I remember you just mentioned it in passing one day, that after your father passed away, you called your mother every day. And my father passed away in 2014, and every day after that, I called my mother. And it's something I will never regret. And she passed away last April. This will be coming up, her first anniversary of her death. So I just wanted to thank you for all that time and the importance you put on that.
Well, you're more than welcome. I'm flattered. I'm always amazed when I find out what people hear the things that they hear on this program that resonate and stick with them. I'm always surprised. I remember when I met the Cancer Doc team and started talking about various facts. I said, well, you know, I host a radio program, and the guy looked at me like I'm an idiot. Well, of course I know that. And I said, well, I never assume that everybody listens, and I don't. So I'm always fascinated with the things people hear, take away. I mean, I can sit here and think I have been as profound as ever, and I'll get zero reaction to it. And then I'll do a throwaway this or that, and people, man, was that smart? Man, I love that. So you just never know what people are going to hear. I just make sure I never phone it in each and every day. Audio sound bites. Grab numbers 8 and 9. Victor Davis Henson was on the Ingram Angle last night with Laura Ingram. He's a senior fellow, brilliant man at Hoover Institution, campus, Stanford, Palo Alto. He's a farmer in the California Central Valley. The question she asked him, said, the left never lets a good crisis go to waste, Victor. Now, you and I have talked about this before, but will people see through some of these schemes? Will they ultimately recoil and resist them?
People are advocating to manipulate the crisis and, more importantly, to enact an agenda that didn't have 50% support. We saw that in the Democratic primaries. Nobody wanted the Green New Deal or Medicare for All or open borders. This desire to manipulate this crisis for an agenda that does not have popular support and would transform or reject the status quo before the virus, which was the best economy we've had in decades. It doesn't make any sense.
Right, and his point here is that the left must always force what it wants on us because it's never popularly supported. The left did not win the White House running on this agenda. Crazy Bernie running on this agenda did not win the Democrat nomination. And so they're going to force it. They're going to take the occasion of the crisis of the coronavirus to force this communist progressive agenda on everybody through the spending bills and through the other efforts to re-stimulate the economy. The next question he got from Laura Ingram. Well, you got to imagine the policymakers at some point will hear from the people who are suffering with these job losses in these businesses and say, hey, you know, we've got lives as well. We have to somehow to preserve them. We need to get back to work.
I'm sitting in a state that's the 5th largest economy in the world that's completely shut down, and we've suffered less than 250 deaths, and we have about 3 million people, 3 people per million that have died. We have twice the population of New York, and we've suffered 1/10 the deaths. We have 3 people per million dying. That's just a fact of life when we have 760 people in California dying every day. And during this crisis, we've had about 4 extra on average.
I want to go through this again because this is the point. I have been trying to focus on California all week. Aside from the stark, shocking impact of these numbers is what they mean. Now, let's go through this. California, the 5th largest economy in the world, it is completely shut down. 40 million people live in the state of California, and they have suffered less than 250 deaths from corona. 3 people per million have died, and they have shut down the state because of it. 3 million people, or 3 people per million population have died. California has twice the population of New York, and yet they've only suffered 1/10 the deaths. 3 people per million die. It is a fact. It's not opinion. Do you know 760 people die in California every day? From various things, traffic accidents, cancer, old age, you name it. And I'll tell you, this is something else that's happening that you better be aware of. The authorities are assigning coronavirus as cause of death to people who may be dying from other things. They are invested in the stats because the stats equal money, stats equal attention, stats equal federal bailouts. But these numbers in California are striking. Why in the world, with all of the people from China who have flown in and out of California, 5,000 to 7,000 a day since December, why are these numbers so low there? I maintain to you that it is herd. What's the word? I'm having a mental block. Herd immunity. I can immunize themselves. I think people in California had this disease in December, January, didn't know what it was. Many people lived through it, got better, built up antibodies. Before anybody knew what coronavirus was, before anybody knew it had escaped China. Because social distancing cannot explain the low numbers. They only started social distancing 2 days prior to New York. 2 days of lead time of social distancing will not explain the great disparity in these numbers. Again, 40 million people in California. The state economy is shut down. 40 million people, they have less than 250 deaths from coronavirus. 3 people per million have died. They've got twice the population of New York, and yet 1/10 the number of deaths. 3 people per million dying. 760 people die in California every day. They've shut down the state because 250 deaths have happened from coronavirus. Victor Davis, during the shutdown, during the time you are not allowed to leave home and go to work, let me give you a binge-watching idea from Hillsdale College. They have their own contributions to offer when it comes to binge-watching. Hillsdale College is offering free online courses. You talk about learning every day. Nothing will keep you more engaged than learning every day, than learning how to use what you've learned. Hillsdale College has 25 different series available online, on demand, El Fribo, and each one of them comes as a video college-level course that focuses on one subject or another, from the newest course on the history of the country at large to the original course, Constitution 101. You think you know about the Constitution? You ought to take the online course, Constitution 101 from Hillsdale College. You will be surprised at how well-produced and enjoyable every one of these courses are. Professors teach them employing great production value, and they're free. And it's at rushforhillsdale.com. That's the website. Now, the newest course from Hillsdale online, called The Great American Story, A Land of Hope. This course shares the stories of individual successes in the land of opportunity in America. It tells a great story. For years, Hillsdale has been producing online video college-level courses. They want to teach beyond campus. They love teaching. They love having people learn what they do. They're proficient in teaching America, the Constitution. They want everybody to. They believe if there was much better understanding of the Constitution, we wouldn't have half the problems we have in this country. I agree with them. Every one of these courses is El Fribo, on demand. You register online in seconds. There are no strings attached. You're able to browse through the list of courses and choose the ones that you want. It's rushforhillsdale.com is the website. The U.S. Navy ship Mercy, New York Harbor, to help the hospital overcrowding in New York. There are 1,000 beds on this ship. This is the, it's the Comfort. The Mercy's in the way. This is the Comfort. It was supposed to help New York. It has 20 patients. There are 20 patients on this 1,000-bed hospital ship. How do you square this? There have been all kinds of citizen videos showing quiet hospitals, and Twitter is shutting them down and banning them. And the drive-by media is shaming the people who are producing them. But things are not adding up here. The Navy hospital ship in Los Angeles doesn't have very many patients either. New York hospital administrators say they're still slammed, and they're blaming red tape. Who's red tape? Navy hospital ship supposed to aid a struggling New York floats largely unused and idle. 1,000 beds on the hospital ship. It has 20 patients. So many things here just... The only way these things make sense is if you chalk it all up to bureaucratic inefficiency and confusion, and maybe